Should we start with more of a structured beginning before we get into any like spoiler territory or anything like that? Smile 2022 is a psychological jump scare horror film following a woman as she has a mental breakdown after being smiled at by members of the public. Turns out, women don't like it when men stare and smile at them for long periods of time.
I'm seeing something no one else can see except for me. It's smiling at me. Oh my God!
I think overall, I was scared by it. So, Smile is a horror film, and I was scared. So you've got to say, I've got to say that it was effective.
Oh yeah, it was. I think, in terms of horror films, effective horror film, especially in terms of a jump scare film. Effective jump scare film. I think clearly in terms of the scale of horror films as a genre, I mean, it was a good film. It was a solid film, but I don't think it was like a horror masterpiece type thing. You know, it wasn't in the top echelon of horrors. But in terms of jump scare horrors, I think, I mean, for me, it was fucking successful as a film. So
and I think overall it had a clear theme. It explored the theme with the main character quite. I wouldn't say like the most in depth, but all of the story beats served like in that direction. There was a couple of flaws that we'll touch on, but I think overall you could tell what the movie was going for. It had some emotional beats where I was like, okay, this is kind of strong, and I mean, as we discussed, I was scared. Like the whole time I was watching through my hands like this so that I could close my fingers and like my thumb by my ear so that I could cover like.
And I was sitting quite similarly, but it was more from the taxi driver being annoyed by the fucking cinema, just like in my own brain, just getting angrier and angrier as the film went on. You know,
it's almost impossible not to talk about that because it was one of the worst screenings. A whole row behind us of like middle-aged just dickheads.
Like the thing is, it's like, okay, I don't mind if you get scared and then you laugh after the scare. That's like what you do in a cinema when you're seeing especially when you're seeing a jump scare horror film.
Yeah.
But when the whole premise of the film is that these people smile and you're laughing at them smiling, it's like, why did you come to a film about that?
It undercuts a lot of the tension for us as the audience as well, because I think, in my opinion, the opening to the film was one of the strongest parts of it. You know, it's probably not worth delving into complete detail, but me as, like, if we compare to the film we partially watched yesterday, we failed watching, what was it called?
Mr. Caravaggio's phone. I don't fucking remember, bro.
Mr.
Cranbridge's phone. Something about some old paedophile's phone.
It's on Netflix, and that film, I would say that we watched the first half an hour. Mr. Harrington's phone. We watched the first half an hour, and it was bland, boring, had nothing happen.
Yeah.
Whereas the first like sequence in Smile, I was gripped. The quality of acting I thought was really good. They specifically framed it in a way where I knew generally what was going to happen, but I couldn't tell the way they were going to turn the scene. And
I've seen online and like around like you know, Your Movie Sucks. I watched a very short snippet of his video on Smile, and from what I've seen, a lot of like critics saying is they're saying it was like uninventive, like unimaginative, like boring, like how he would describe fucking
Mr. Cranbridge's phone. Yeah.
But I just disagree. I think especially as a jump scare horror film, I think it was inventive. Like the way that, especially you think about that opening, and the way that it would frame our protagonist. I can't fucking remember her name.
Nope.
To be fair,
that's a bit of an issue.
Bit of an issue. But the way it would frame her would make you constantly anxious and constantly nervous, and there was no point during the opening or even the entire film really where you're feeling safe.
I think that's one of the most important things about the film, is that the concept, the premise of the film itself is so strong, and that they built the cinematography around that in a way that meant, like, me personally, as someone who's very scared in horror movies, oftentimes you're looking for like safe places almost within the film. You're like, all right, so that was the scary bit. We're out of the like dark, creaky house. We're now like at the sunny lake. All right, the sunny lake's fine. Whereas this film, you pointed it out when we first watched it, is that you're never safe. Like, there's always something around the corner, or like a dark space behind there.
Always. The character is never ever put like in front of a wall. No. Ever. And the only times she is when in the reverse is something coming towards her. Yeah. So she's backing into a wall.
Exactly.
That's the only time she's ever in front of a wall. If she's like by herself and there's no you have no like visual presence of a smiling thing or any form of like evil.
Yeah.
She's placed in front of like empty doorways, corners, dark spaces where anything could come out.
And it's really clever, because I think that's one of the things you might overlook, because it's not the most obvious. It's not like, Kubrick-esque cinematography. It's not like flying crane shots and stuff, but it is good blocking and good framing in a way that, at the end of the day, it's about getting the effect across. It's about scaring the audience. And like so many times in that film, like I felt the fear. And even, for example, as a film student, I'm sure you identify with this more than me. It's like you can feel some of them coming. You see, that character's blurred out far in, and they're coming more into focus. Oh, I wonder whether they're going to jump.
The pink cardigan sister, and to be fair, I saw it coming because it's in the trailer. They just fully spoiled that one, but it was still kind of obvious anyway.
Yeah,
you just see her coming out of the house and walking towards the car, and you're just like, there's going to be a jump scare, and then her head turns upside down. And you're like, whoa, that scared me.
I mean, I didn't see the actual scare because I knew it was coming, so I got myself covered.
Brilliant. To be fair, the only jump in the actual film that scared me was at the end when I properly overthought it, because I really, really enjoyed that ending. With the, I'm gonna say spoilers now.
We gave him enough run-up.
But like the ending where you have just the mum turn into this giant monster, and like the way she comes around this like tiny house, just like when there's just that moment where it like holds you without seeing her, what she is now, but then it holds you before it then goes for a jump. I was like really thinking about it. I was like expecting it. I did a countdown in my head and it didn't do it, and I was like, shit, now I'm gonna get scared. Like I knew I was gonna get scared, and then I fully jumped to that one. And the then like having that, and then moving into just the most horrendous gore stuff from that, I was just like, this is amazing.
Yeah, and I think despite the fact that I'm often like overly disturbed by gore, the gore was actually quite fun and quite like
very fun.
I would hesitate to say silly, but it was silly adjacent, if you know what I mean. One of my favorite moments in the whole film, I think it might be my favorite moment. The whole time, so you come to learn that she can only avoid the monster by passing on the trauma, by having a witness to her murdering someone. She murders a guy who's kind of been set up throughout the film to creep her out. And it's quite a gruesome, like, I'm stabbing you repeatedly in the torso with a knife. And I'm finally thinking like, I'm free from this film. The tension is gone.
It's the end of the film. Yeah, it's completed. It's done. It's easy. This is a short, fun film.
It's the false victory, and you turn, and her colleague and friend literally rips his own face off in shock, and I was like.
And then 2 moments later, the biggest jump scare for you in the entire film.
I slapped myself in the face. I still think about it because I was in this like. I need to block this out from my film. I was like relaxed, so I'm lowering my hands. As I'm lowering my hands, it jumps me, and I just like smack myself in the face. Like it was embarrassing.
Absolutely genius is what it is. Absolutely genius.
I mean, it did its job.
And that's the thing is, I think the jump scare elements, like, it was genius. I think that's why I put it as like high echelon of jump scare films, and I don't understand why people are saying it's not creative. I think like in terms of maybe story and stuff like that, if you're comparing it to, I don't know, like The Shining.
It's a high bar to set.
Of course it's going to not be as imaginative, but you're not going to compare what is a kind of schlocky jump scare horror to the best of the best horrors, because it's a different type of enjoyment you get from it. It's not the same type of... Like, I didn't go into that going, oh, I wonder what the cinematographer's going to do. And and I was pleasantly surprised by some of the cinematography and stuff. And I was very surprised at the fact that it wasn't done like so many shitty horror films these days, like shitty jump scare films. They're all they do is they shoot it like a, you know, like a Showtime, like shitty, like Grumpy Cat's Christmas, you know. They shoot it like that.
Lyle
and then and then so it's the most flat, like they try and do the pastel aesthetic, but they're shit at it, so it just doesn't work. So it's just flat, like awful looking stuff.
Colours.
No complementary colors, no contrast, no anything. And then they were just like, ooh, scary monster. And I'm like, yeah, but you've got no contrast here and you got nothing. I'm like, I can just see everything in the frame. This isn't scary.
Yeah.
Whereas a film, and I don't know where that came from. I'm sure there was an originator of that idea that did it really well, and then it was copied. But this film, it actually tried to shoot itself as a horror film.
Yeah, and it did a lot with a little. Like, its budget was 17 million, I think so, or something like that.
And it got back like 90 million, which is fucking amazing.
I mean, great marketing campaign. To be fair. And I think overall it is just a well-produced film. Like sometimes I guess I will watch a horror movie, and granted I'm not the most like well-versed, but sometimes I'll watch a horror movie and there's almost like this cheap feeling of like, well, you didn't even try that hard. Like, obviously everybody tries hard to make good movies.
I mean, we can go back to Cranbridge's phone.
Yeah, Mr. Harrington's phone.
Mr. Harrington's phone. It, you know, that film, it did exactly what I'm saying. It shot it like a Showtime film or whatever. It shot it like this shitty, cheap rubbish, and then tried to sell itself as this scary horror film in the trailers. And I mean, we only got a certain amount of way in.
We were like half an hour in and there was no tension.
There was no tension. There was nothing scary except for, is this man touching this boy? And we haven't got to the end of the film. That might be what it's about.
I genuinely don't know.
We don't know.
It's like the first 10 minutes establish a theme and then there's no follow-up.
Yeah,
almost.
And it's like because we were watching with a group of people. We were all kind of here to kind of make fun of it, but like, because we knew it was going to be shit from the trailer. But even if we went into it completely like sober and thought like, you know, clear-minded, and we weren't going to make fun of it, thought this was going to be a good film, we were ready for that, we all would have been there like, is this about a paedophile?
Many times.
Whereas you go into the Start a Smile and you go, I know exactly what this is going to be and I'm going to enjoy that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll speak for myself. I felt like, because I was so wrapped up in, oh, this is what the monster is, this is how it happens.
Yeah.
It was only when the theme became clear, I was like, oh, this actually really links together well. Yeah. The way that they've set this up, I completely understand why they're going for this theme and why they're exploring it.
My only issue, I think, in terms of like big problems, like there's small issues, but you know,
you can forgive them if it's overall good.
My main problem is kind of the dialogue in the film. I feel at points it was clunky and there were like the random like arguments for no reason.
Yeah, I recall you mentioning.
That was only there to isolate the character, but the character was set up as a therapist, so all of her problems that she was having, she would have learned how to properly deal with them and learn what they are. Not saying therapists can't have problems and can't, like, you know, deal with these situations incorrectly, but she surely would understand better than just going up to her husband and going, you know, screaming at him for getting someone in to help her when she's clearly having a mental breakdown, you know, like any caring husband in a situation where they see their wife is freaking out because they think an evil creature is following them or whatever, you'd be like, oh, I'm gonna get in their therapist and have a little intervention and see, you know, if we can progress this in a good manner. And then that just broke down the film and just turned it into her isolating herself. And
I think from my perspective, what the film was trying to do, and I think it did it mostly well, was showing how even somebody who had seen victims of this thing or victims of these kind of problems, she herself completely is torn apart mentally. And I think one of the things that it did really well was that it used the blurring of reality and surrealism to get shocks, to get jumps. So sometimes she's doing something mundane and then it bursts into another scene, and I personally, it wasn't like the biggest scare, but it's enough to maintain that tension.
Like, well, I mean, the perfect example is that ending.
Yeah.
When there's like, how many fake outs? Like 3?
I think.
Or was it 2? 2 fake outs and then 1 real ending, I guess. Yeah. But when you think she's finally finished with the thing, she leaves the house and then she's back in the house, and it's like, whoa.
I was completely not expecting it.
I think it really got me because I thought it was going to do the terrible ending.
Yeah,
and then because it didn't do that, I was like,
you're back in.
Yeah. Whereas I think if it was, you know, let's say it was a Kubrick film, let's say Smile was a Kubrick film, and he did that at the end, I would have been like, you could do better, mate.
Yeah.
But when it's a bit of schlocky fun, I'm like,
yeah, I
give it credit for that.
No, I thought, for me, it's that feeling of like, because the whole time I don't feel safe, I'm waiting for that moment. I'm waiting for the ability to go, all right, all the scary parts are done, and I'm free. I can walk back. I can never watch this fucking film again. But it didn't happen. I was like, oh no, I'm not. And then like the one thing that I think slightly weakened that for me was what I talked to you about is that the side character, ex-boyfriend, policeman, I thought it was well performed, mostly well written even. I thought his dialogue was mostly good. But as storytellers, we know that the film is trying to make you feel uncomfortable. The film is trying to make you feel not safe. And here's this character who makes you feel safe. And naturally, in my own head, I'm thinking, how are they going to scare me? How are they going to make me feel unsafe? They're going to have to take the character who makes you feel the most comfortable and, you know, turn it.
Yeah.
That's the only part where I really felt like, not underwhelmed, but I was like, I was ahead of the game, you guys weren't ahead of me, kind of thing.
Yeah. And I mean, of course, he had to die as well, right?
Naturally.
Well, had to gain the smile.
Yeah.
Like, because otherwise his character would have just...
Well, I mean, there's no stakes.
There'd
be
no nothing to his character otherwise. And unfortunately for me, what took me out, at least, with his character was that he looked like someone that we know.
It's so like
similar.
So similar. And I didn't realize until it was pointed out to me, I was like, that's what I know him from. I know him from real life.
I know the dude.
Yeah.
I mean,
spoke to him like twice in my life.
Yeah, in my entire life I spoke to him like twice, but I've seen him enough times where I'm like, is this guy acting in a film? You know, and it was just like the whole time I was like, why is this dude in this film? And it was really annoying me because I didn't want to be thinking of that. Because thinking of that is like, you know, the whole point is you're meant to immerse yourself in a film and not think about people.
A real person in your real life. I mean, I think as well, something that was kind of, we commented on after watching the film was that for seemingly not supposed to being rich, the main characters...
What's up with that?
Just like, I have to say, what I think it was that the director and the location manager weren't exactly in sync.
Yeah.
Because it's like, there's a specific scene at the start where the main character's sister says like, you're wasting your earning potential, you're being a broke bitch by working in like...
You're working in a hospital where you get paid no money. Cut to them going back to this like $1 million, probably even
custom
more...
architecture.
Yeah, like fucking modernist home, and with a Tesla and a Dodge. Is it a Ford Dodge or something?
It was. There was a particular car.
Two particular cars that were very, very expensive, and I was just like, is he like earning all the money? Is this meant to be like a
unbalanced marriage kind of situation?
But I don't know if that was the point. I think it was literally the director or the producer or whoever fucking would have just gone, hey, this is gonna be a therapist, and then the locations were like, oh, a therapist, so they will live in this type of building, and the director was like, nice, fine, because whatever.
If you think about that scene at the end, well, towards the end, where her therapist turns, when they're sat in the front room, it looks like a therapy session.
Yeah.
And like you can kind of tell, maybe she had her own therapy sessions there or that kind of thing. But actually, I thought, despite it being predictable, whereas with the police ex-boyfriend, despite it being predictable, well, because it was predictable, it kind of turned it down a bit for me. Yeah. But while the other one was predictable, the therapist turning, I actually found that very chilling, very scary. Yeah. Because having like we're told a lot in our course about the bomb under the table thing, how to create tension, and just that idea of I'm on the phone to my actual therapist and I'm looking at my therapist in real life. What does this mean?
Yeah. I don't know why, because normally with these types of films, I'm quite good at predicting it. And I predicted the phone was going to ring. I predicted that she was going to be on like there and on the phone. But for some reason, I in my own head had it that the person that was there was actually the therapist, and who was on the phone was faking to be. So then she'd start freaking out in front of her real therapist.
Right.
And I thought, oh, that's kind of, I don't know,
underwhelming.
Yeah, it's like, why are you having this scene? So when she started smiling, I was like, oh, nice. It got me like got me excited.
Yeah, and I think overall, just the way that everything ties together, how the monster acts in a cycle, creating a cycle of trauma, which links to general ideas of trauma, and then how the idea of like a smile being very counter to what you normally experience it being. Like, legit, after the film, I remember being sat with you. You were on this sofa, and it's out of frame, but there's another sofa just across the room. And I would sometimes look away from you, and I would genuinely feel a slight subconscious feeling like, if I look back and this guy is smiling at me, I'm gonna freak the fuck out.
Yeah, you'd fucking start like pummeling my face in or run away.
Honestly,
one or the other.
A couple of our friends, who I'm not going to mention because I don't want to give them clout on this on this platform, they did it to me in the almost the exact same situation, and I fucking freaked out. Yeah. I fucking freaked out. But I thought premise is strong, well delivered. I think the characters, apart from the main one, you could consider them a little weak.
Yeah.
But I think there's a little bit of like a bridge of the thing that took it from like what could have been amazing to like pretty good. I think was weak characters, weak middle, weak kind of second act as well.
Yeah. And dialogue that just kind of like, you know, in the intro when she's like, and my grandpa who died when I was there, and I was like, fucking hell. Or the crazy dude who's just, you're gonna die, you're gonna die, you're gonna die, and I was just like, yeah, I like kind of got that.
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. But yeah, would you recommend this film to people?
I think it's an interesting question. I would never recommend it to someone like me. I would recommend it to someone like you.
Yeah, okay.
What about you?
I'd recommend it. I'd recommend it to anyone.
Yeah.
I'd recommend it specifically to people who hate horror films and cannot stand jump scares.
Yeah,
because I think it would be the most effective on them.
It was effective on me. It was effective. I think here's the truth of the matter. At the end of the day, is that if you want a film to scare you, that film will scare you. Yeah. Even someone like you, who you're a little bit more battle tested than me. You're a little bit. You've seen the.
Yeah. I'm martyrs done. In that, you know?
It's a film I can't even watch, but yeah, I think overall it's good to see these kind of films being successful in modern cinema because, you know, I was just thinking earlier about whether it might have been partially low budget or it was allowed to be as good as it was because maybe they got product placement from the car companies. Yeah. But even still, it's below 50 million. It's got a lot of attention, and I think that kind of proves why horror has its place in cinema. Yeah. There's not any other genre that gets as much bang for its buck if you look at it realistically.
Agreed. So,
I feel like we've come to a natural ending point.
We recommend this film. It will maybe scare you depending on who you are.
I would genuinely be shocked if somebody watched this entire film in a cinema screening and be like, just no reaction at all. Mad. But yeah, good job.
Lovely.
Cheers. Hope this turns out alright. It's gonna be a bitch to edit.
It's gonna be shit.